Welcome to our Indonesia Project's COVID-19 webinar series. My name is Arianto Patundru. I'm hosting this program with Nur Kamala Mulyani and Ruth Niki Julu. We acknowledge the first Australians and pay our respect to elders past, present, and emerging. We are grateful for the support from the Australian National University and also the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Today we'll be discussing the issues in education sector during this pandemic time. As we know, education is one of the hardest hit sectors, and so much adjustment is taking place by force or by necessity, including transformation into digital platforms. We have invited three distinguished speakers to discuss these issues today. Dr. Iwan Syahril is the Director General for Teachers and Education Personnel at the Indonesian Ministry of Education. Ms. Florischa Ayu Tresnatri is a researcher at the SMERU Research Institute, and Mr. Amri Ilmma is the head of public policy at Ruang Guru. As usual, we will have question and answer session after the talks, but if you want, you can write your question anytime on the Q&A box, not on the chat box, and we will attend to them in the Q&A session. Please also kindly fill a little polling when it appears on your screen. We need this to improve our series. So first, let me invite Pak Iwan to start his presentation. Silakan, Pak.
Thank you so much, Pak Arianto. Good morning, good day, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation to give a presentation about education, how we are dealing with the pandemic, and also maybe thinking about ways ahead, some ideas that we have also anticipated. So I'd like to share my slide. I think, please, Arianto, if I going a bit beyond the time.
No problem, Pak. Sure.
I know that it should be short, but I've prepared, try to capture like the elements from as comprehensive as possible, but maybe as concise as possible as well.
Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you, Pat. So the title of my presentation is about disruptions and reimagining education during and post COVID-19. There are three categories or main areas in my presentation. The first one is about pandemic disruptions to teaching and learning, what we've learned, of course, this in Indonesian context. And then the new culture of teacher learning that we've seen emerging from the pandemic, and going forward about mitigating learning loss, some thoughts that we are anticipating for going for the future. So the first one about pandemic disruptions, teaching and learning. As you know, like since a little bit over a year ago, we have done a lot and learned a lot about how to deal with the pandemic. And we have to say that nobody has been trained to operate an education system in a global pandemic like this. So we're learning as we go with the pandemic, and then we learn a little bit this and that. So some of the major policies that we've done is the first one, when it first started to hit, we cannot do the national examinations. It was huge because this created like a bit unsettling for those, especially to go to the next phase of their level, for instance, elementary to junior secondaries, senior secondary, and to the university. But then it had to be done, and then we had to use different mechanisms for moving to the next level of education. And the second one is simplification of the national curriculum. We created like the simplified version, focusing on the most essential learning outcomes to help teachers, especially in schools, to how to arrange teaching and learning, or what kind of guidance that they have to make it more simple for their teaching and learning, and also for their students. And then for kindergarten and elementary school, especially the ones that are the levels that are most affected, arguably, because they need the adult presence during the teaching and learning, the learning from home, because the self-regulation of theirs is still not there yet. So we specifically had like modules for kindergarten and elementary school. And we have like even like student models for teachers and also for the parents, so then they can be aligned when they collaborate to conduct learning from home during the pandemic. And then providing like the autonomy for the school principals to use the school operational systems or bantuan operasional sekolah. Before it was, there is allocation that they have to comply for later for auditing purposes. Now it's like up to the school principal, meaning if they need, because the need is different. Some areas maybe need health kits, and then some areas maybe need technology support and so on and so forth. Printing materials, modules for some schools who don't have internet access. So then school principals have the autonomy to use in their discretion. We have national program on a television, on TVRI, that runs from Monday until Sunday. There are still like program we combine with education and also cultural programs. And then financial assistance to 56,000 schools that are that we had identified that most affected by the pandemic. It's about 3.2 trillion, or about 223 million US dollars. Cash assistance for non-PNS or non-civil servant teachers, lecturers, education personnel to more than 2 million people, non-civil servant teachers, lecturers, education personnel. It's about 3.7 trillion, or it's equal to 258 million US dollars. We also provided internet data package to 35 million students, teachers, and lecturers, granting full autonomy for the sub-national government for school reopenings, because we have 514 sub-national governments, and they have like different situations about the pandemic, especially the areas where COVID is relatively can be managed pretty well, or quite safe zones. So we push those areas through the subnational governments to push for the school reopenings, because we believe that this is the best way to put kids back on track again with catching up with the learning loss especially. And then providing vaccines to 5.5 million teachers, lecturers, education personnel that we hope to be completed by June 2021. So it's like a snapshot of like the major education policies that we've done in over a year to respond to the pandemic. So we acknowledge there are a lot of like challenges, right? It's like all over the world, 1.6 billion students are affected. And for teachers, not only teachers and students, but also parents. For teachers, we found in Indonesia it's difficult for them to do like the classroom management in distant learning mode. And then the dilemma of the push for curriculum coverage, even though we've said that they need to only focus on the most essential learning outcomes, and they have the agency to decide what is most relevant for their context, but still, the concern in the field is like afraid being when the supervisor, like principal and the supervisor, pengawas, don't think the same. So then they feel like they don't really, some teachers feel like they're not brave enough to change the curriculum. And then the reduced teachers student interaction time, obviously, I think in our surveys it's about 9 to 10 hours in a week. So it's very minimum. And then difficulties because the teachers need to interact with parents, and parents have also their situation. So these are also part of the struggle for the teachers, and of course the internet access. And for the parents, when they know that they have to accompany their children, but they cannot do it because they still have to work or doing other household duties. And if they do have time and then accompany their children, sometimes they don't understand about the lesson itself because that's not what they learned before, or maybe it's too complicated, too high for their level. And also for them to motivate students to learn is also something it's challenging. And students find it difficult to concentrate. They're overwhelmed by assignments given by the teachers, especially the teachers who tend to cover the curriculum. They feel stressed, bored, and some kids are depressed. Not everyone have access to learning resources and internet access. I'll just skip this. And then the pandemic disruption, we know rather than see it as a disruption, as a barrier, we can see it as an opportunity to reimagine, revitalize education. And we think that the most important transformation in the during this pandemic is the mindset challenge. This is like the most difficult part, but at the same time, this is what we've seen in many cases. Like teachers started to try to be okay with the pandemic, with all the puzzles that they need to deal with. So to embrace uncertainties and to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, because operating during the pandemic is no way like the routine or the normal way how it had been done before, and nobody had been trained. So then it is really embracing something that is uncertain. So this is actually a good thing, because when we want to do, we want to have to create an ecosystem, the culture of innovation, like what we had been talking about before, fourth industrial revolution. This is a mindset that is a must. And then the mindset to be a learner, this is also fascinating to see. We see a lot of like teacher learning communities everywhere, every time, every day. And they're learning not because of getting points for their promotion, but it's more about how to solve problems that they are facing. And they're thinking about how to help the students to learn in these very challenging circumstances. So this accelerates the student-centered mindset of the teacher learning. So this is a good thing. And also to embrace technology. I think people have been talking about this before. Everywhere we see that teachers have been using the technology, the anxiety level has decreased significantly, and this increases hope for the adoption of technology for teaching and learning in the future. I want to share this survey data, that the national survey data that we did last year. We can see there's like a progression. Yeah, at the beginning, maybe there was a shock. Like all trends here are increasing. This is about how teachers teach during the pandemic. So there are 6 categories. The first one is giving questions, exercises, assigning students to read textbooks, assigning students to read supplementary materials, assigning students to use electronic resources, interactive online teaching, and assigning students to do projects or creative assignments. So arguably number 1 and 2 is basically the template of how teachers have been operating, most of the teachers in the past. So just use the textbooks and then give questions and exercises. Number 4 and 6 basically is because, yeah, they have to use the technology, so they learn about what the technology can offer. So electronic resources or interactive video conferencing with the students. What was the most interesting for me is number 3 and number 6. This is arguably something that is a different kind of like teaching. Number 3 is about asking students to read supplementary materials. So it's just moving away from the textbook, which is a good thing. And this is like the most increase, it's the most significant increase. And along with number 6, which is assigning students to do projects or creative assignments. So although these are like just like we need to dig deeper into this, but there is a trend that the teachers try new things, take the risk to try something that they had not been done before. So it's very hopeful to see this kind of data despite all the challenges that we're facing. I'm going to skip this and I'm going to go to the new culture of teacher learning. So I mentioned about teachers also started to have like this new mindset and have the learning, student-oriented learning for teachers themselves. So what we see like this enthusiasm for learning from our own data, for instance, in our online teacher learning series, Guru Belajar dan Berbagi, since October 2020, we have had like 1.3 million registered training participants, and they have completed about 69 completion rate, which is very good. And they're doing this voluntarily, not because they've got like letter from the principal or from the Dinas Pendidikan, but this is because they wanted to learn. We have done like 6 learning series, teacher learning during the pandemic, life skills education series, about the new national assessment, the literacy and numeracy, the preparation for the civil service recruitment series, inclusive education and early childhood education. And in the next week, I think in 2nd of June, we are planning to launch the new series, which is about soft skills and for using the technology, because so far the discussion about technology is just too technical, but the soft skills are actually more important to be successful in adapting and adopting technology for teaching and learning. So we're going to launch this soon. And we found even like, this is when the minister and I visited West Papua, and we went to this small island. This is also a 3T area. we surprisingly found that some teachers there already engaged in Guru Bear and Berbagi, and at that time they completed 2 modules. And this is where the area where the internet connection is not stable, but we can still find this. And this is giving hope that actually access with technology, we can provide access to teachers all over Indonesia for a better opportunity for learning that is relevant to them. And I talked to the Minister of Information and Communication and Information, Pak Joni Plate, just a few days ago. He said that the target is in 2022, all areas in Indonesia can be connected with the internet access through satellite. So hopefully when that happens, we can connect all schools on teachers with many opportunities that can be provided online. And also the other strategy, which is not top down, but bottom up. So we found that teachers, the context of teachers' challenges are really like vary. So then we need to find a different way. So we use a crowdsourcing model. So create a platform where teachers, all levels, all subjects can collaborate. They share lesson plans, and then they also can download other lesson plans from other teachers. So this been like very active. Since about a year ago, we have had like 81 million access for this, with about 366,000 active users and almost 90,000 lesson plans and articles, and has been downloaded more than 21 million times. So this is like a way for like a community, like teacher helping teachers, and this has been very active and very encouraging to see as well. And my last part is about mitigating learning loss. We know that the UNICEF has kind of like campaigning about put the kids back to school, right? And I think Indonesia is the 15% of the countries in the Asia Pacific that have not done the limited face-to-face interaction option regularly. About 85 countries in the Asia Pacific have been putting kids back to school since the end of last year, according to the UNICEF data. So we need to put kids back to school and find ways to do this, because we know that the cost of missing the school is very damaging, not only for now, but also for the future. And from the review of literature, and also talk to many experts and studies, including in Indonesia, about the impact of COVID-19 pandemic to education, there are like a few recommendations that we need to highlight here. So I just go with the recommendation, the right-hand corner. First is we have to reimagine education. So how it was before, it cannot be like what will be in the future. We need to change the expectations and how to meet our objectives. The first one, and then the second one is in catching up, we need to focus on the core skills and focusing on the mastery-based learning. And I think Indonesia, with the shift from the national examination, Ujian Nasional, to Assessment Nasional, focusing on literacy, numeracy, and character, we are actually on the right track, even before the pandemic, focusing on the core skills. And then how to provide high quality teachers and teaching. We need to think about the new models for teacher preparation and development. And the fourth one, technology, how to leverage the technology to scale access, to make the free and open source technologies available to all teachers. And then for the school reopenings, we need to do a very thorough plan, and to make sure that we cover especially the health concern from the society. And then resource allocation. We need to find a way to make it equitable, because areas, we need to pay attention to areas that are most affected, the society with low SES. We need to make sure that they get enough education support and financing to catch up to mitigate the learning loss. Building resilient education systems for equitable, again, like the word equitable is very important here, because the impact of COVID is not the same between the have and the have-nots. And also the future of work. If before COVID we predicted, or the experts predicted in 2030, 85% of the jobs that exist then in 2030 have not existed now. I think with the disruption of COVID, I think that's even more unpredictable. And also, the last but not least, COVID-19 is an opportunity to strengthen our solidarity to deal with the inequalities that are affecting education system all across the world that impacted by the pandemic. I think that will be all for my presentation. Maybe we can discuss later in the question and answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pak Iwan. That's very comprehensive and very interesting presentation. So let us now go to Florischa for her presentation. So Icha, over to you.
Thank you, Pak Arianto. Let me share my screen. Sorry. Okay. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Florischa Ayu Tresnatri, a researcher from the RISE program, the SMERU Research Institute. And it's good to be back at the ANU, although virtually. And in this opportunity, I would like to share the result of our team's work at the SMERU regarding schooling for primary school students in the times of COVID-19 pandemic, and particularly looking at the inequality it may result in. As we all have experienced since March 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic struck and disrupted many sectors, including the education sector. And the Ministry of Education and Culture responded by suspending school activities to prevent the spread of COVID-19, resulting in a sudden school closure all over Indonesia, despite the difference in number of cases per region. And UNESCO in March 2020 estimated that 1.3 billion children were affected by school closure due to the pandemic, and they have to conduct learning from home. And in addition, teachers also felt clueless as they had to suddenly shift their teaching practice from a face-to-face teaching method to remote learning. And this phenomenon motivates us to investigate how the school closure policy may widen the education outcome inequality that has already occurred even before the school closure, particularly at primary education in Indonesia. And we focus our study on the primary school level, as students at this level are still heavily dependent on other people to support their learning activities. And also, primary education is a foundation for learning. To do this, we conducted phone survey to education stakeholders in April to June 2020. We first phone surveyed 290 homeroom teachers who are the applicants of the pre-service teacher training program, or what we call as PPG, to capture their teaching practices in April to May 2020. In addition, we also conducted in-depth interview to selected 16 teachers from the 290 respondents, as well as 8 parents and 7 school principals to dig in further about their experience during the first months of the school closure. And this is basically the area coverage of our study respondents. The survey covers pretty much almost all provinces in Indonesia, but except for Province Maluku and West Papua. And our study reveals that the learning from home during the school closure resulted in different benefits across different types of students, resulting in learning inequality. This is due to not everyone can get the same infrastructure and learning process during the school closure. The 3 factors cause this learning inequality, namely teaching practices, school support, and the child home environment. Firstly, regarding the teaching practice, overall the students shift to remote learning led teachers to be confused on how to monitor their students' learning progress, and especially for teachers to conduct assessment, as it is hard for them to identify who was the one who truly did the assessment, the student themselves or their parents, as many students are helped by their parents in doing the assessment and they get high scores, although previously they did not. And additionally, due to the sudden shift to remote learning, few teachers were still confused by which teaching technique that they should employ during the distance learning. And however, not every student underwent similar learning activities, as not all teachers had learning session every day during the first months of school closure. Some teachers in rural areas outside of Java Island even thought that the first month of school closure were school holidays, thus they didn't teach nor give assignments. Only half of teachers in rural area outside Java who still taught every day during the same period. Signal strength and network coverage are mostly admitted by teachers to be the barriers for them to conduct remote teaching. Some teachers in rural areas outside of Java even had to travel 34 kilometers from their house to students' house to teach them directly due to the absence of internet signal in the region, or even due to the fact that the students did not have communication gadget at home. And this resulted in the teaching activities to be conducted only once or twice a week, or even twice or thrice in every 2 weeks. On the contrary, teachers in the urban areas, they benefit from well-established internet connection, thus allowing them to more frequently teach every day and better prepare their teaching materials. And despite the confusion of teachers to conduct remote learning and their limited capability in utilizing technology in remote learning, training on technology was very limited for teachers who live outside of Java Island and the rural area in Java. Only half of the teacher respondents received training on technology organized by school in urban area in Java Island. The third factor, home environment, also differs across different types of parents. Urban parents can provide active guidance where they were able to structure their children's study schedule, as well as actively participate as an instructor and help their child's school assignments. On the other hand, rural parents could not reach the level of active guidance, but merely passive and absented, where in the previous one, they remind children of their classes, but did not provide further assistance, while in the latter, they feel inferior by citing their lack of education attainment as their inability to assist their child in studying. When looking at the communication pattern between teacher and parents, almost all teacher respondents in urban area in Java had regular communication with student parents. Meanwhile, 30% of the teacher respondents in rural outside of Java reported that the communication with students' parents was not regular due to the limited possession of communication gadget or even internet signal. So by this, due to the different infrastructure and learning quality experienced by different types of children, children in rural area, particularly those who live outside of Java Island, may experience larger learning losses compared to those in urban areas. Therefore, all the efforts taken by all education stakeholders should focus on addressing the learning losses, particularly of the disadvantaged group, as due to the prolonged school closure, the disadvantaged students might not be able to catch up with their peers. So this is an illustration of how school disruptions due to the pandemic could create learning loss. So we see that even before the school closure, there had been a gap in students' learning outcome, where the students who come from wealthy family achieve better learning outcome as they can access better infrastructure and support for learning. After a few months of school closure, the students who come from low socioeconomic background experience more learning losses compared to their counterpart, as these poor students were inhibited from accessing adequate learning infrastructure. We see that if the schools and government did not do any mitigation effort after the school reopens, the education inequality widened, as the students from the wealthy family could recover from the learning loss, while the poor students were still left behind, as it is hard for them to catch up with their peers. So the impact is even experienced in long term, as the education inequality accumulate along with the addition of years of schooling. And this may affect future income when they have entered the workforce. So to mitigate the education inequality, we have to conduct effort to recover the learning loss, especially for the left behind students. And this can be done by conducting diagnostic assessment and differentiated teaching by the time the school reopens later. So the diagnostic assessment is aimed to map students' current learning level after the school closure. So this way, we could utilize the result of the diagnostic assessment to teach students at the right level through the differentiated teaching by grouping students according to their initial ability. And the most important thing to remember when conducting the differentiated teaching is that we must not label the low-performing students as bad students, and while put all effort to teach them and make them to be able to catch up with their high-performing peers. So lastly, this is the evidence of the impact generated by the practice of implementing differentiated teaching in other developing countries. And here it can be seen that differentiated teaching is proven to be able to improve students' learning outcomes, particularly that of the low-performing students, to be able to catch up with their high-performing peers. That's all from me. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Pak Arianto.
Thank you so much, Icha. So next, we have Amri Ilmma from Ruang Guru. So silakan, Amri.
Yeah, thank you, Pacho. Let me share my screen.
Sure.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Let me introduce myself. My name is Amri Ilmma. I am the head of public policy at Ruang Guru. It's an honor and a very great opportunity for me to attend this seminar with the NU Indonesia project. And in this opportunity, I would like to explain a little bit about some of the roles and contribution that the EdTech company, as one of the private sector player in education in Indonesia, can help in accelerating in the online learning processes. So just want to give you a little bit of background of what Ruang Guru is. Maybe some of you already know about Ruang Guru, but some other people might not. So Ruang Guru is started as a company in 2014. We started as an online marketplace for tutoring services, but now our business model has shifted mainly to provide a pre-recorded and live teaching through the mobile app and desktop. So we focus our effort on two things. The first one is to provide the interactive and high quality content available for students across Indonesia, no matter where they are located. And then the second one is, of course, by using the technology, by leveraging the technology to be able to detect and assess the students' level and providing them with the optimal learning journey or learning path. So every student is unique. We believe that they will benefit more if they can get a personalized recommendation based on their current level. And 96% of our students say that Ruang Guru is actually more effective and appealing than other alternatives. And then within the 6 years since we established in Indonesia, Ruang Guru has become the household brand for education. As you can see here, two of our products, like the main Ruang Guru app and the Skill Academy, are the application that is used heavily during the COVID-19 pandemic, more than key competitors, and in comparison, with the other, even from outside of Indonesia. And then we also have a very strong user base and a very good rating at the Play Store. And then we have been continually expand and growing, and currently we have expanded to 2 more countries in Southeast Asia. The first one is in Thailand, and the second one is in Vietnam. And at the same time, we also expand particularly, creating more products such as English Academy, like Brand Academy is one of our products where we also have our offline presence in Indonesia. And then we still have our marketplace for teachers as well. And then we also expand to lifelong learning through Skill Academy and learning management system for the corporate. And currently, we have been used by more than 22 million users across the 3 countries in Southeast Asia with more than 4,000 employees. Most recently, Ruang Guru has been chosen as the #2 most innovative company in education in the world by Fast Company magazine, and number 25 in overall category. So in par with, like others famous companies such as SpaceX and Netflix. And this is an honor for Ruang Guru to be featured in the list. And coming back to the current COVID-19 pandemic situation in Indonesia, we know that Indonesia still faces many challenges in education. Even before there is a pandemic, before the school closure, Indonesia's education quality can already be characterized as low and stagnant. This is, as you might already know from our PISA score, the Program for International Student Assessment, the score is quite low, and this is actually one of the lowest performing among other countries. And then the score is also stagnant because in the latest assessment in 2018, it is actually lower compared to 3 years prior. And then during the school closure and distance learning, we conducted a survey in 22 to 31st of July in 2020, where we have hundreds of respondents from teachers and also students from 32 provinces across Indonesia to identify what are the challenges. And I think the results are quite consistent with Pak Iwan and Bu Florischa already mentioned earlier, where there are many challenges for teachers, students, and also like parents in general. And the challenge is also very depends on the availability of the internet, the ability and the education level of the parents, and also the capability of the teacher to innovate and teach during the distance learning period. And then there is also a most recent estimate from the World Bank that try to simulate what are the impact of the school closure in Indonesia to learning, right? And on the left side, we can see here the projection that was created by the World Bank with 3 current different scenarios. The current scenario is the one that they created back in July 2020, when the school has been closed for 4 months. And then the optimistic scenario is if the school is closed for 6 months, and the pessimistic scenario is if the school is closed for 8 months. And the result here, as you can see, that in all scenarios, the students' ability to read, this is the reading test from PISA is estimated to be even lower and can be reduced to up to 5.6%. And then on the right side, this also affect not only student learning, but also their future earning. And this is estimated that the potential future earning of the student can be reduced up to $484 per year in average if the pandemic continue and the school is closed for 8 months. And as we already know that up until currently, many schools have been closed for more than 1 year in certain areas. So this even poses more challenge for us. And then Ruang Guru, through the technology, innovation, and collaboration, is committed to continuously improve the quality of education in Indonesia, of course, by working together with many partners from the government, from international organizations, and also from the other private sectors in the region to support the government, mitigating the impact of COVID-19 in learning. And we do this by utilizing 4 strategies. The first one is actually inherent in the nature of the service that we provided, which is the Ruang Guru application itself. This is a little bit of at a glance of what Ruang Guru app looks like. So if you download the Ruang Guru, you can just download it. You can register for free. And you can see that this is a combination of pre-recorded teaching and also live teaching. And through Ruang Belajar, our main product, the students in K to 12 grade can learn in their own pace, anytime and anywhere, because we provided the subject material for all grade, from grade 1 to grade 12, and following the national curriculum. And in addition to just providing the learning tool, we also offer the gamified experience to students to motivate them to keep learning, right? For example, we provide with the Ruang Guru Adventure and Ruang Guru Pets. This is like Tamagotchi. So if the students learn, they can their pets can grow, can evolve, and they can also get points to their avatar. So this is basically to motivate and create incentive for students to keep learning in the app. We also have smart recommendation and study tools where the students can do the test in the very beginning of each subtopic, and the app can generate a unique learning path for every student to optimize their learning. And the third one, we also provide a social learning experience to students where they can also attend a live teaching and meet with other users. And we also separated, like the videos and the content material is also tailored to different students' learning and style and age group. For example, for the elementary school, this is like full animation, interactive, more like game. But for high school segment video, less cartoon animation, clearer visuals, and more serious. And then in order to make it as widely as available as possible, we reduce the price to be very competitive compared to other after-school tuitions. It can be 1/10 cheaper and more affordable than traditional offline alternative. And from our internal study, 70% of our current subscribers have never accessed tuition change before. So we are actually creating a new demand for people. And this is some testimonial that we get from students that access to Ruang Guru app is actually helping them to study at home during the COVID-19 pandemic and school closure. And the parents also speak highly of Ruang Guru because they can alternate their study style at home. So, for example, this Wulan, housewife in Tangerang City, she said that she accompanied her kids to study around 10 a.m. in the morning. But then after that, she has to do some domestic chores. At that time, she asked the student to just use Ruang Guru app to study for themselves. And then after lunch, they can study again together. And then the second strategy that we conducted during the COVID-19 pandemic is by providing the free Ruang Guru online school. So this is what we provided in 2020. I still remember at the time in March 2020 when the government announced that the school will be closed. It was on the weekend, and at that time, in the same day, the management had a meeting, and then we decided to provide all the premium materials that we have for free and will be broadcasted through the Ruang Guru app. So during that time, on Monday, we first broadcasted all of our materials that covers all grades and all subject materials, including for vocational school. And this is broadcasted from Monday to Friday in the morning. And then the video that we also provided is using half the bandwidth if compared to YouTube. So it's actually also easier for students in terms of internet quota. And so far, it has been benefited to more than 10 million students across Indonesia. And then in the Ruang Guru online school, we're not only providing the access to study materials, but also other activities such as online flag ceremony, the information on COVID, even online gymnastic instruction, and additional content. And then we also working together with the major telecommunication companies to provide free internet access quota to access the Ruang Guru online school, and also with other private company to provide incentive for students to keep learning, because we know that the motivation to study at home has been more difficult for students, and we want to give more appreciation to students to keep learning. And then, this is just an example on how students are utilizing the free online school that we provided. And the third strategy is by collaborating with as many partners as possible, because we realize that we cannot do this alone. The government cannot do this alone. I think there has to be a wide and very broad collaboration between the government, the private sector, and the international community. And Ruang Guru has been working together with many partners from international organizations such as Google.org, MIT Solve, Australian Aid, and a private sector in Indonesia to provide a social impact program for teachers and students. And we, in 2020, we also launched Ruang Peduli. This is our umbrella for social initiative. We also have volunteers and community members to help with fundraising for education project. And then this is also some of our example that we work together with other partners, like free online school. And then we also open our teacher training materials to all teachers in Indonesia in 2020, which has been used by more than 200,000 teachers. In direct benefit, we also supported children affected by the pandemic, such as the orphan children, and also the children of the medical worker. And then we also provide the free question bank, the learning management system that I will explain in the next session, and so forth. And then this is also some example of a more like comprehensive program that we have with our partners. For example, we have this Indonesia Teaching Fellowship Program. In 2020 only, it has benefited more than 2,000 teachers in more than 14 cities and 11 provinces. And then this is just one of the example of our collaboration with Bakti Kominfo, so the Ministry of Communication and Information, where we provide the teacher training program in 3T area, the very remote areas in Indonesia, such as Kepulauan Sangihe and Sorong. And this program shows that we can actually, like do something even in the remote area where internet penetration is still very low. With the right collaboration with Bakti, they provided, the internet access and the BTS for the reception, and Ruang Guru provided the access to teacher training materials. And the result has also been very good, where we see some increase in terms of this teacher's capability that is measured by competencies assessment tryout. And then you can download all what we've done in the Ruang Guru Annual Impact Report 2020 in this link. And lastly, our fourth strategy is by creating the learning management system for school. So this is, we first launched it in June 2020 during the new academic year of last year. And then this is an LMS called Ruang Kelas that will directly address the need for digitalized classroom in Indonesia. Because what we observed during our survey is that many teachers is still using WhatsApp to do distance learning, and we know that WhatsApp is not very appropriate for managing, learning, especially in online setting, because this is WhatsApp is just like communication tools. What we created here is a complete package for learning management system where teacher can assign materials, can give homework, even can do some analytics based on the homework that have been completed by the students. So far, the Ruang Kelas learning management system have been used by more than 17,000 teachers and 150,000 students across Indonesia. And then we also realized that the existence and provision of technology is not enough to provide to support for the teachers, but we also need some kind of adaptations for the teachers themselves. So in addition to providing a free learning management system for teachers and schools, we also provided the training for them to use it and to set up in their schools and to effectively manage the class in the online settings. So I guess that's all from me. Thank you very much for your attention, and looking forward for the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pa Amri. It's amazing how much Ruang Guru has done even before the pandemic, but especially during the pandemic. So it's very good to already listen to these three perspectives from government, from research organizations, and also from private sector. So let's now go to Q&A. So if you have questions to attendants, please, you can use your raise hand feature. While waiting for hands raised, I'll read some question from that has been written in the Q&A box. So there are 3 questions. So let me quickly go through. So through these questions, mostly to Pak Iwan, but I think Pak Amri and Bu Icha can also respond. Well, the first from Pak Imran Hanafi. He's asking about mental health development of students because they seem to because they didn't get to meet with their friends, and maybe they have been stressed under the circumstances during the pandemic. How do we deal with this possible mental health issues during the pandemic? And then Astra Belinda asked about government preparation with regards to AKM, that's minimum competency assessment, if I'm not mistaken. Is this, the question is whether or not this has been prepared well, because the system doesn't seem to be fully introduced and comprehended. And the third question is from Sri Raharjo, asking about the connection between education institution strategy with parenting strategy, given that parents are an element in education for children as well. So maybe we take those 3 questions first, Pak Iwan, and then after Pak Iwan, maybe Pak Amri and Ibu Icha can also comment on those questions if they want. So Pak Iwan.
Thank you so much, Pak Rianto, Pak Dikbud, Pak Imran. Thank you so much for the question, Bu Astra and Bu Raharjo as well. First of all, about the mental health issues. Yeah, this is like one of like the major issues during the pandemic, not only in education, but also in all other sectors as well. The parents and or the business people, you know, like everyone is facing some issues with the mental health because of the routine has been disrupted, and then our movement is very limited because of health concern. What we've been doing, like mainly especially with the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research, and Technology, is first highlighting this. So we've done like a lot of socialization in our term, socialisasi, or through like a series of like webinar especially in my Directorate General. Last year we did like 1 month like for helping schools and teachers about how to start with the new academic year back in July, and then also we continued in December, and to highlight about this. And then we have the Guru Belajar, Ayo Guru Belajar, and also there's a platform about how to deal with the teaching learning during the pandemic. For instance, like not immediately go through the lessons or the modules to catch up because they've been behind, but first to pay particular attention to the mental health issue of the students. However, we have to say that, and also there are a lot of like also the communities or professional organizations, especially in psychology, that have also had like the programs to deal with it. But we know that the counseling, bimbingan dan counseling, what's that in English? Like school counseling is an area that we are very weak of. So it needs strengthening, and I think going forward is even more important. So I think I'd like to encourage, I think if you can collaborate with like different stakeholders, maybe in Australia or Indonesians in Australia, we can do this much better in the future. And the second question about AKM, I think this is a bit misconception. This is not ujian nasional. This is not, students, teachers don't need to prepare something. This is not a bimbel thing, right? This is, how do you bimbel PISA? How do you bimbel teams, right? It's just like a test, it's just a survey, it's like sampling, not all students. And the purpose is to give us the data that we need to, okay, so these areas need more intervention. These areas need strengthening in literacy or numeracy, or so this is like information for the adults for how we can serve better the students and support the schools and the regions that need more support than compared to others. So again, this is serve as information. It's not the mindset like national ujian nasional in the past. So I think the question is framed within that kind of mindset, and I think it's a misconception. So I just want to clarify that, and therefore in terms of preparation, need no preparation. Just learn well. Just do the critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, and I think that's the score will increase little by little. That's what we hope. And then in terms of the family parenting strategy, I think this is again like the same, like the mental health. During the pandemic, like our webinar series, we also involved like parents too, and also present the voice of the parents, how they're dealing with the pandemic, what works, what's not working, and so on. Because I think in the pandemic, the educators, the teachers are not just the teachers at school, but also the parents as well. We need also to look at our children's lessons, and then to comprehend, okay, how can we explain and also motivate our children to deal with this. So we also did that, but again, this should be like a movement. This is not just like top down from the government. And also in terms of governance in Indonesia for education, we have 514 plus 48, because the provincial government also take care of the senior secondary level and special needs education. So we have like 548 authorities and that have programs that and also understand what's going on in the region. Of course, some subnational government are more active than the others, but I think in terms of governance, our strategy has also always been how to coordinate and collaborate with them. So strengthening especially aspects like this, like parenting suddenly becomes in the radar. It takes a village to educate a child feels much more meaningful now compared to before, because now it's really the village to educate a child.
Right.
More than just like send kids to school and the parents can just like just let school do the work, but now cannot be done like that anymore. So
thank you, Pak Iwan. Bu Icha, Pak Amri, do you have anything to add?
I think I might want to add on the questions regarding the parenting strategy. I'd like to share that RISE Indonesia, RISE Program Indonesia from SMERU Research Institute has also been engaged in promoting parental involvement as well during this pandemic time. The program is specifically undergone in Central Java, in Kebumen, in which there we try to help parents in overcoming their barriers to be more actively involved in their child's education. So I pretty much agree with the concern that parents are the main educators now during this pandemic, but like due to their different various education attainments. So they are confused on how to accompany their child in studying. So in Kebumen, we give them monthly some kind of like leaflets that contains ways for parents to help their child in study, and also how to be actively engaged in their child's education, and also giving them letters, monthly letter, which is written by teachers monthly regarding the struggles that the child still had in the last month, and also the learning plan for the next month, and also special notes for teachers, for parents to be able to accompany their child better. And this program has been conducted since the beginning of this pandemic in March 2020. And if I may share the result, this program has established some sort of a communication channel between teachers and parents, in which before the program, they admitted that most parents thought that the sole responsibility of educating their child lies on the school. But now, because of the communication created by the learning progress letter, now the parents and teachers collaborate together in educating their child and also helping their child in studying. So perhaps that's one of the efforts that can be done to accommodate parenting strategy into this education. And also, perhaps lastly, I can also add from the GTK Directorate, Pak Iwan, it's also been established like some sort of a guidance for parents during this COVID pandemic time, in which if I saw it in that guidance, it contains materials that the parents and also their child can talk about, can discuss, and then like some sort of questions that parents can ask to their children regarding the learning materials. So perhaps those kind of materials can help parents to be more actively engaged and helping the students during this pandemic time.
Thank you, Ibu Icha. Pak Amri, anything?
Yes, Pak Cho. Just want to add just a little bit on in terms of the mental health issue of the students. So from the EdTech perspective, we aware about that, and then we're also trying to do something through our product and services. Like for example, not only they can self-study in the application, but there is also the opportunity for them to do counseling. For example, with a counselor, they can schedule a counseling session. There is also additional social and extracurricular activities that students can also do, such as live teaching. They can meet with other students, not only limited to their friends at school, but also students across Indonesia that use Ruang Guru app. They can collaborate and have the social aspect in the application. And then lastly, we also provide a free additional learning materials, such as healthy living. So I think this is also very important. We also encourage them to access the material by giving them, like the push notification, the presence, basically raising the awareness for them that there is this also additional free materials that you can also access, not only related to the curriculum, but also something that can support you during the like home learning. Yeah.
Thank you, Pak Amri. Next, let's invite question directly. I have 3 questions, Arya Gadu, Firman Witular, and Peter Macaulay. So let's start with Arya. Silakan, Arya.
Thanks, Hajo. So first, I'd like to say that I'm very excited with the assessment, AKM, Assessment National. I think that's a really good idea to have a low-stake exam. And it's, I think, at the critical time in which we need to figure out basically the impact of this pandemic on shortages, right? Having said that, I'm curious because even without looking at the AKM, we sort of could have anticipated where the impacts are going to be hardest, right? And in part, one of the areas that I'm thinking about is more of this very remote area, very remotely located areas where the typical online solutions don't really work. And therefore, we need some kind of a non-digital or analog solutions. So I'm just wondering sort of what is the strategy to reach this sort of more analog areas. And this also very quickly linked to the previous question about parents, because we do have evidence that in some of these hard to reach areas, sort of empowering parents sort of would be able to help with addressing, especially for lower grades, would be able to help address some of the learning deficiencies in lower grades. I'm wondering if there is some kind of a plan to sort of like make this nudge a policy. And the second question is that from a policy point of view, the real important question is what next, right? So the pandemic is here, and we know that in a year there's going to be some learning lapses. What is the approach to address learning lapses? SMERU has this idea of TARL, teaching at the right level. I'm wondering whether there is a sort of like a plan from the ministry to try to make this into policy. I think that's a question. Thanks.
Thank you, Arya. Firman?
Yes, thank you for all speakers for the great presentation. It's great to hear the overall optimistic tone of the talk today. Although I do think we still all should be concerned about the long-term toll of the pandemic to these cohorts of students, right? My question is very specific to Amri from Ruang Guru. I'm just again curious, given the reach of Ruang Guru, I'm not sure how far it is, but given the numbers that you gave, the reach and the technological capacity to tweak your own programs, how easy for you to do a rigorous impact evaluation on things that you do? Because at the end you show something about impact of what you did, and of course this, given that I know Amri have also a background in impact evaluation, maybe you already thought about that.
Thank you, Firman. Peter Macaulay. Peter? Pak Peter, are you there?
Ya, terima kasih. You can hear me, Pak Acho?
Yes,
okay,
Pak.
right. Oh, baiklah. Terima kasih. Thank you to all of the speakers, Pak Iwan, Bu Isha, and Pak Amri. I have a general question. By the way, I would like to say this is all very, very, very wonderful. It is very exciting. We are in the middle, really, or even just at the pada awal of a true revolution, and we don't quite know where this revolution will lead us to, but it is all quite wonderful. But I have a question, and for some of my friends, at least at the ANU, ini semacam lagu lama, I guess, because my question, and I had a similar question yesterday in a Zoom session, my question is about listrik, sector terutama the extension of electricity to the daerah pedesaan, rural areas. When I look at the penetration figures, the PLN says that there is now almost 100% coverage of Indonesia, but across Indonesia. But I think that we know in daerah pedesaan, often the electricity reach is very small. So I'm wondering, I mean, some people would say that ini enggak apa-apa, it doesn't matter, because a lot can be done with what we have just been talking about today on hand phones and through other connections. So the shortage of electricity in daerah pedesaan tidak menjadi masalah. It's not really a problem. On the other hand, I must say on the computers that even I use, this is from Canberra, I really need the jaringan listrik. I need my computers and so on. So for me, I can't really rely, I must say, satisfactorily on HP handphones, but maybe this is kelemahan saya. So I wonder, could I perhaps just have a comment? Do you Pak Iwan, Bu Isha, Pak Amri, do you see this problem of basic utility services as a halangan, as a barrier, or not? Is this a problem we need to pay attention to, or is it really not a problem? Terima kasih sebelumnya. Thank you very much for all of the comments. Makasih ya. And sorry if this is a lagu lama to my friends at the ANU. Makasih ya.
Thank you, Peter. Pak Iwan?
Okay, thank you so much for all the questions, Pak Arya, Pak Firman, and Pak Peter. I think Pak Arya's first question is related to Pak Peter's question, actually.
Yeah.
So the context of 3T regions, right? So since last year, I think October, if I'm not mistaken, the Minister of Education and Culture that back then, Minister of Religious Affairs, who also have schools, Minister of Home Affairs, who have the who supervise the sub-national governments, the operation of the schools and teachers in all provinces and kabupaten kota, and also Minister of Health have launched like an agreement that we need to put the kids back to school. Okay, so that's like the policy that we launched since last year. But at the time, we limited to the safe zones area. So we have like 4 categories, right? Green, yellow, orange, and red, right? So the ones that are okay to have the face-to-face, limited face-to-face interaction with the health protocol, there are checklists that schools need to comply, are in the green and yellow zones. Okay, and then as we learn later, we got the feedback from the many regions that these category of either green or yellow, orange, or red is based on the subnational government. So it's either kabupaten kota. But within a kabupaten or kota, especially in regions like that have some islands there in eastern part of Indonesia, so there are pockets of that kabupaten that are different than, let's say, the capital of the kabupaten. So in the capital of the kabupaten, maybe it's red or orange, but then in their areas, in their desa, it's like basically it's a green area, right? So then we revise the policy, so we give the autonomy to the heads of the local government, to the bupati, to the wali kota, to the governor, to make the assessment and then to decide which areas and which schools that are okay to open. And now with the vaccination, the direction is the schools have to give the option for the students and parents to provide the face-to-face interaction with limitation, still comply with the health protocol, and do the rotation. But then the final decision is up to the parents, and then schools can provide whether they do the blended version or still do the online version for some kids. My point is this: in 3T areas, most of like these areas are actually areas that are even like since last year safe enough to do like limited face-to-face interaction, right? So this is actually what we need to do with the regions that are that don't have the electricity, that don't have like the internet connection. This is also my experience accompanying the minister. We went to West Papua. We went to one of like the small islands there, 3T area, and then the schools there are still closed, and it's basically a green zone. And we asked the kepala sekolah, the school principal, why you don't open the school. It's because the instruction from the dinas, and the dinas hasn't, or the Pemda hasn't really done like the assessment and to see which areas that actually can go on with the limited face-to-face interaction and which areas that are still like, oh, this is a no-no zone. So I think, and now with the vaccination, we hope we can accelerate this by the end of June. So by the beginning of the new school academic year, I think all schools can provide the option, and especially the 3T areas, because we know the online teaching and learning, in most cases, if it's like full online, that's not going to be as effective as if we have like the face-to-face interaction component. Because learning is not just about looking at the materials, but you need interaction between the teacher and the students with the peers. So that is something that has been missing. that is something that we need to put back. And I think UNICEF, since I think February, has put the campaign, put the kids back to school, right? So I think this is what we need to do to mitigate the learning loss, especially in areas that are most affected by the pandemic, because they are actually the most vulnerable because they don't have the resources. Going forward, in terms of providing these facilities, if you ask about the electricity penetration and the internet penetration, I mentioned earlier about the plan for the government to have all schools to be connected with the internet by 2023. And this is not only the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology, but also with other ministries. And when I met the Minister of Information and Communication and Information a few days ago, when he launched the what is it, the Indonesia Makin Cakap Digital. So like the modules, learning modules for digital literacy provided for free. And he said that the plan has been accelerated to 2022. So meaning that by then, of course, the internet, electricity will also be there, because there's no point having the internet connection but no electricity. But this is the collaboration across the ministries, but there is a plan that the school will be connected, because, and this is to answer Pa Arya's question number 2, teaching at the right level, we are building at the moment the National Education Platform. The National Education Platform that will have a lot of features to make it easy for the schools to operate in terms of all the mundane routine admin tasks can be automated through machine, and then also providing the teachers for opportunities to how to assess their students, diagnostic, formative, and also to teach at the right level. And teachers can have suggested lesson plans and then options of the materials that they can choose according to the assessment of their students. Because we need to do differentiated instruction according to the students' readiness, both cognitively and also social emotionally. And also for the teachers to learn, not only to teach, but also to learn. So micro-learning for teachers, if they don't understand about what is diagnostic assessment, there is like a micro-learning component to it, and teachers can double-click and maybe can get more information. And if they can learn more intensively, there's also some kind of like courses, short courses for them to do. So this is integrated within the National Technology Platform. At the moment, we have more than 100 engineers, former decacorns, top talents, unicorns, technology engineers creating this platform at the moment. So they're working very hard to make it hopefully starting next year. But going forward, it will be much more enhanced as we go. So hopefully, this has been the plan before the pandemic. The president asked the minister to do this. This is like technology should be the solution for a lot of our problems. So even before the pandemic, and it is much more relevant now with the pandemic. So let's support it together. You know, like I think don't just ask questions. Let's see like how you can contribute to this. How can you help accelerate this? I think there are a lot of spaces for collaboration within the government at the moment.
Thank you, Pa Iwan. Those are very promising. Pa Amri, there was a question from Firman about measuring your impact.
Thank you for Pa Arya, Pa Firman, and Pa Peter for the questions. So maybe I'll answer Pa Firman question specifically for Ruang Guru. How easy it is to do a rigorous impact evaluation for our product or our program. I think there are several points that I want to mention here. The first one is, of course, it's really depend on the program that we want to evaluate, Pa Firman. Because as I already mentioned in my presentation, there are a quite wide variety of initiative and program that Ruang Guru is doing currently. But overall, we can categorize it either like the impact of the access to Ruang Guru application itself, how it can actually benefit the student that have access compared to those who don't. The second one is we also have the teacher training program this is usually conducted for the whole 1 year. And the third one is the academic readiness program that we are doing with MIT Solve, DFAT, and Atlassian Foundation. The second consideration that I want to mention here, Pak Firman, is related the usual challenge in selecting the comparison group. Because in selecting the counterfactual, our biggest concern is usually on how to get as similar as possible the comparison group. And in terms of Ruang Guru user itself, if we're talking about the people who have access to our app, who are our paid subscriber, it is not equal to like unpaid subscriber or even non-users, and we have to take that into considerations as well, because they might have a different socioeconomic background, economic condition, like the motivation from students and parents to enroll and subscribe to our app. Even though in one of our internal survey we see that like 70% of our users is actually coming to lower socioeconomic background, but nevertheless, I think in designing, we need to think about how to select the counterfactual in such a way that it's as similar as possible with our paid or a subscriber. And the third one, I think we are moving towards that kind of direction, which is we're trying to create collaboration with other research institutions and also international organization to initiate like more rigorous impact evaluation to our program and our product. For example, we are currently in talk with the World Bank in Jakarta team to have a possibility of conducting a impact evaluation for our teacher training program. I think this is also something that have been in talk with Pak Iwan's teams as well from the World Bank team. And the second one, the one that I mentioned earlier with MIT Solve, DFAT, and also Atlassian Foundation, we are actually planning to do a independent impact evaluation for our work readiness program. That is something, so just a little bit of the background, the program is targeting the dropouts that want to get the high school equivalency diploma, and also the disadvantaged youth who is unemployed or have a low set of skills. What Ruang Guru is providing is basically for the dropouts is access to Ruang Guru application so they can study better when they want to get the high school equivalency diploma through PKBM or like community school to get packet C. And the other one is to provide a access to Skill Academy, our lifelong learning platform for the disadvantaged youth and the unemployed. So hopefully, Pak Firman, if maybe Jepal or also maybe Survey Matter is interested to collaborate with us in the future, we are open to talk more about that. Yeah.
Thank you, Pak Amri. Bu Ica, would you like to add?
I think the others, Pak Iwan and Mas Amri has already
Okay.
given comprehensive answers.
All right. So I think for the last round, I will invite Nadia Azahra, Irma Lisa, and Rezanti Pramana to ask their questions directly. First, Nadia.
Okay, thank you so much, Pak Aco, and I would also like to appreciate all of the speakers today. Very insightful. I would like to know about like the possibility for blended learning in Indonesia, because right now, for example, in DKI Jakarta, the local government has conducted trials on limited face-to-face interactions. And I would like to ask mainly to Pak Iwan regarding the possibility if post-pandemic blended learning can be conducted like nationwide. And I would also like to know the opinions from Ibu Ica and also Pak Amri. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. Ibu Irma. Ibu Irma, are you there? Now let's move to Ibu Rezanti.
Thank you, Pak Arianto, and thank you for the speakers for the very insightful presentation. Maybe this is for Pak Iwan and Mbak Icha, but Mas Amri, if you have an insight, please do jump into the question. Because for the new school year, there's a plan for school reopening. So I would like to ask whether there's a roadmap or there's a best way for both teachers and students to transition now that they are going to be on a face-to-face learning. Is there like some form of roadmap on what should teacher begin with once they are back in school teaching with the students, like phases where they should maybe prioritize first on the SEL, the social emotional learning, and then continue on to the curriculum or something like that. If there is like an insight on what's the best way for the roadmap to transition to face-to-face learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Rezanti. Let's go first to Pak Iwan again. Silakan, Pak.
Okay, thank you so much for the questions, Bu Nadia and Bu Rezanti. About the blended learning, whether there's possibility. Okay, I think let me give you like the big picture and the core strategy. The core strategy since the beginning of Merdeka Belajar is to give the schools, universities more autonomy to decide to innovate, because there is no one size fits all, and especially in the context of Indonesia, it's not possible at all. So we need to provide the autonomy. How, like for instance, how the schools use the BOS Bantuan Operasional Sekolah, right? It is very much in the past. It's very kind of like you have to spend this much for books, this much for this and that, right? And in fact, the reality that the schools need different situations responding and maybe different ideas about how to advance. And the second one, for instance, also the policy for accreditation. Accreditation is not now like in the past. The universities, if they are happy with the current accreditation, they don't need to spend the resources just to do re-accreditation again and again. If they can have like the international accreditation, they don't need to do national accreditation. Again, this is also in order to provide autonomy for the university so they can focus the resources on things that matter. And then for the other example is the RPP satu halaman, the tagline satu halaman, right? So the idea is simplified lesson plan. Before, the lesson plan needs to be 20 pages, 30 pages, right? For just one single lesson even. It's crazy. And teachers have like all this admin burden. And the idea for RPP simplification is not for the RPP actually is to give the teachers more autonomy to use their time to do what matters most, which is serving the students, assessing the students, giving feedback, and etc. Because the time that the teachers spend for just doing that RPP just to comply with the admin stuff is crazy, ridiculous. So they actually can use that more time for serving their students. So also in terms of like the curriculum or the types of learning, the spirit is that how to provide the autonomy to schools so that they can create the more operational curriculum that functions much more relevant to their context, and including what kind of mode, learning mode. So either blended, and when you say blended, it's also a loaded term. What do you mean by blended? There are so many kinds of blended learning, like what's the proportion and what is the strategy. That's like so many things to unpack. And it's okay to do that, and we leave it to the school we can provide options, but then schools maybe can decide. And how to do this, it goes back to the quality of the human resources, not only the teachers, but also the leaders. So in the past, we have seen that the teachers were trained and they're energized, and they have like the excitement to try new ideas. They go back to their school. The principals and the pengawas, the supervisors, don't understand. So then the new ideas get scolded on and said, no, you need to follow this template because this is what the regulation says, right? Not what the students need. and then these teachers who have been enlightened suddenly, okay, so then they have to follow again. So our strategy now is to create the top leaders in our schools and also for the pengawas. So this is the program called Guru Penggerak. Guru Penggerak is not just about to be good teachers. It's much more than that. They need to be good leaders. This is a leadership training. If you heard about the program, Guru Penggerak, it's about leadership training. And the philosophy is how to be a good instructional leader. So this is instructional leadership. So to help teach at the right level, to help students can learn based on where they are, their readiness. And the function of the leaders, this should be like the principals, the supervisors, the pengawas, and hopefully maybe also later the kepala dinas. They need to be aligned, and they need to first understand how to do student-centered learning. They need to know how to do it. They need to model it to other teachers, and they need to be also become the mentor and coaches of other teachers. So you imagine, like, if the schools all over Indonesia have this kind of leaders, the teacher learning, the ecosystem for teacher learning community, the professional learning community can start in school, not start in like everywhere, in school, led by the teacher, the school principals who will be the mentor and coaches for their teachers, and also being strengthened by the supervisor who is also aligned. So it's not just student-centered learning, but student-centered program and student-centered policy. So everything goes for what is best for student learning. So that is like the strategy for us. So we hope that by 2024 we can have about 400 graduates from the program Pendidikan Guru Penggerak, the master teacher leadership training. So we can have enough human resources, the pool talent, to fill in the principal position and also the supervisor position.
Thank you so much, Pak Iwan. Maybe a brief response from Bu Icha, if you have.
Yeah, perhaps I want to address Rezanti's questions regarding the strategies for school reopening. So if I may, I want to share that RISE Indonesia has also created some sort of a policy brief for education policymakers regarding the phase to be conducted to prepare for school reopens, in which, yeah, as we know that this pandemic and school closure created learning losses. So in a nutshell, we have to put much effort in mitigating those learning losses. So in our policy brief, in which you can look in more detail in our website, so we kind of mentioning a few steps to be undergone for preparing the school reopens. So first, let the school and notify parents about the plan of school reopening. And this can be done through actual meeting or, for example, through Zoom meetings. But most importantly, letting parents know about what the expectations are and etc. And then the most important thing is by the time the first day of school, it is imperative for teachers to map students' current learning level. As we know, the pandemic creates diverse facilities and also learning opportunities for students. So it makes students to have different learning levels after the school closures. So teachers should map that by conducting the diagnostic assessment. The Kemdikbud actually has established like guidance how to conduct the diagnostic assessment. So more importantly is that teachers should ask students about questions that are essentials and also questions that are preconditions of understanding materials of the higher grade level. So those type of questions are asked to students so that from the diagnostic assessment, teachers will get the result, and that result is utilized to map students according to different types of groups. So for example, students that have score above the average is taught by teachers normally in class, but students with below average is taught is provided for additional lessons and remedial classes by teachers, something like that. So teachers should focus on the low performing students so that they are able to catch up with their high performing peers. So this kind of grouping is actually the teaching at the right level methods by differentiated instructions, just like Pak Iwan mentioned. And it is important for those types of students in each group to be periodically given some sort of formative assessment so that, for example, during the first day of school reopening, the students given the diagnostic assessment, right? But for example, 2 weeks after that, the students are given the formative assessment again to track the progress of students' understanding during those 2 weeks. So by that, teachers would know the progress, whether the low performing students are able to improve their understanding of the materials or not, and tailor their teaching better for those types of students. And so it must be done periodically, you know, like formative assessment and also tailoring in teaching instructions specific to different types of each different type of students, something like that. And lastly, we have to admit that there is a possibility of blended learning. This is also related to Nadia's questions because now we know, although the vaccine has existed, but the actual reality is that the virus is keep on mutating. So there's a possibility that the blended learning should be invested a lot, in which perhaps students get into school for a few days and the other days they learn from home. Perhaps
Thank you, Icha. Yeah, last but not least, Pak Amri.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Icho. Thank you, Bu Nadia and Bu Rizanti for the questions. I think I just want, as a closing statement as well, I just want to say that I think Ruang Guru focus has been from the very beginning is how to leverage the technology to be more personal for every students and teachers. That's why, like in our app, we have developed the personalized learning using the artificial intelligence algorithm, and also creating a unique learning path for each students, and hopefully with more opportunities to come, with more challenges to come. I think this is all of our responsibility together. So not only from the government side, not only from the researcher, but also as the private sector can also contribute. And I hope like Pak Iwan, we can collaborate more in the future. We have started talking last time with your team, with your technology team, to actually improve the technology for schools, and then also with other international organizations to test the personalized learning in the classroom. So hopefully we are very open to test more, the one that Ibu Florischa has already mentioned as well. Periodic tests, diagnostic tools. We are also trying to develop that tools, Bu Florischa, and yeah, hopefully with the participation for all parties involved, from Kemdikbud, from the researcher, we can do something and provide a better tools for both teachers and students. Yeah, thank you, Pak Jo.
Thank you, Pak Amri. Finally, I'd like to invite Pak Iwan to give closing remark, a very brief closing remark, if you may, Pak.
Thank you so much, Pak Arianto. Bapak, Ibu, teman-teman semua who are present in this forum, I just want to say thank you so much for all the discussion, the questions, and the inputs to us. But I want also to emphasize on this, that we need everyone to be part of this movement. The transformation cannot be done by the government alone. This should be a movement, and our philosophy is #GotongRoyong. We believe that there is a big opportunity for us to make a real difference that will influence the future of our nation, especially in education. And we are among the privileged who are in this forum. So little or big or small, I think the contribution can be many, and doesn't have to be directly to the central government, because there are a lot of opportunities in other ways. But I'd like to call for that. And please don't feel pessimistic because you see the number is still low. Always realize that the transformation, the law of innovation, we start to get the critical mass 15% or 20%, then it will be the irreversible movement later on. right? So meaning that 80% or 85% still maybe not on board yet, and it's okay, but it's our responsibility if we have already been enlightened and have like the vision and the privilege to understand the complexities to make the contribution, again, big or small. So I'd like to call for that. And thank you very much, Pak Arianto, for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Pak Iwan. I'm much more optimistic now, Pak. So with that, we'll close this session. Again, thank you so much to Pak Iwan, Pak Amri, Ibu Icha, and all of you attendants, participants. Thank you, and we'll see you again in our next seminars. Thank you so much.
Are you going to announce next week seminar?
Or maybe Nuka, can you announce?
Sorry, I'm coughing so badly.
Oh, okay.
With Pak Tiki and Ibu Marita.
Yeah, so next week we will have special webinar on global health and economy, and that will be with two Pangestus, so Ibu Mari Pangestu and Pak Tiki Pangestu. So stay tuned. We will announce on the mailing list and our social media about the